Absolute monarchy. In this type of monarchy, all power fully belongs to one Doge and is passed down only through inheritance. If he says that plants must grow without water, then they will grow without water, because if they do not grow without water, they will most likely be executed. If a Doge is born into the king's family, or at least into the family of the king's friend, or at least into the family of the friend of the king's friend, then his life will be wonderful. And if not, well, good luck. Here, the king is not just the top Doge, but literally the law, the court, the army, and sometimes even common sense if he happens to be in a good mood. Nobody really asks ordinary Doges how they are doing, because their main political function is to pay taxes, bow, and not ask unnecessary questions. Parliamentary monarchy. In a parliamentary monarchy, the king still has a crown, a palace, guards, servants, a carriage, and possibly even a golden bull, but he has no real power. The king may replace the wallpaper in the palace or order the bushes to be trimmed into bone shapes, but he cannot declare war just because he woke up in a bad mood today. Now, the country is mostly run by parliament, and the king is needed mainly to stand there looking nice, wave his paw, and pretend that the country is deeply committed to traditional values. So here the king is more of a symbol of the state than its actual boss. He is needed for ceremonies, holidays, beautiful speeches, and so tourists can take pictures of the king's palace. Patrimonial monarchy. A patrimonial monarchy is like an absolute monarchy, but with the difference that the kingdom does not simply obey the king, it literally belongs to him. Everything in the state is the king's property. Every bone, every doghouse, and even every Doge. So here, the country is not something separate from the ruler, but his own giant farm with a population. If the king wants, he gives land to his favorite Doges. If he wants, he takes it back, because all of it is his. In such a system, an ordinary Doge feels less like a citizen and more like something between labor force, inventory, and a very sad part of the royal property. Quasi-monarchy. A quasi-monarchy is, generally speaking, not exactly a monarchy. Any quasi-monarch will tell you that their country is a democracy. Well, that is partly true. In theory, a Doge can go vote. In theory, a Doge can even choose whoever he wants, but unfortunately, by a happy coincidence, there is usually only one person on the ballot. And if a Doge wants to run in the election as a candidate, well, from the outside, everything looks very modern. Elections, parliament, flags, speeches about freedom and the will of the people. But in practice, power stays for years in the paws of the same Doge, and when he decides to leave, the election is, by a happy coincidence, won by his son. So formally he is not a king, but by this point everyone already understands who is really in charge here and why it is better not to argue with that.